a focus on military veterans. Starts with Mr. Urban. What would you do to assist veterans, especially homeless veterans, and those suffering from PTSD?
Yeah, that's a great question. And being a veteran myself, and a combat veteran, being in a situation where, in war, where one would form PTSD, I think it's an important issue to be addressed. As a matter of fact, over the last year, I've helped 30 soldiers with PTSD that came in contact with me for different reasons. One, because when he came back from the Middle East, he was violent. It was hard for him to unlearn what he learned. One, when he came back, he was in the Navy, and he was out on a ship for months at a time. When he came back, he was distant and unable to communicate effectively based on the circumstances that he went in. One gentleman, when he came back, he just wasn't right. Now he's got to take psychotropic medications to level himself off and to be able to function daily. And over the last year, I've been able to create an immense amount of relationships with the VA department, both here locally, with the state, and federally as well, to make sure that our veterans are taken care of. And what I would do as Mayoral, when people apply to the city and their veterans, I'd like to give them preference points when you apply, more preference points than maybe they get now. Also, if our veterans that work with the city have issues with PTSD, like one of our fire department individuals, I want to make sure I can support him and make sure that his issues are taken care of as well.
Well, this is a very important issue, and I think that there are great opportunities to be able to use different federal resources, different federal partnerships with federal agencies to be able to do our part in being able to perhaps create supportive housing for veterans who do have PTSD, for veterans who do have mental health, ongoing mental health, or even substance abuse issues. I've been a big advocate for permanent supportive housing. Many of our homeless in Aurora are veterans, and some of them are chronically homeless because of PTSD or other mental issues, and it's incredibly difficult for them to be able to actually address the issues, the underlying issues that they have when they are homeless in the most unstable environment you could be in. So I've been an advocate for creating permanent supportive housing because it actually has been proven to be able to save taxpayer money by being able to house folks that instead of being chronically homeless, chronically involved with police, with being transported to our emergency rooms over and over, that they can be put into housing that is supportive and is actually affordable. And we can use resources to do that. We have a Veterans Advisory Committee, and our chairman, Joe Toma, is here. And based on the large magnet he has on his car, he has not endorsed me. But I don't hold that. But this is an important point I want to make. There are no sides in the city of Aurora. There are no sides when it comes to issues like this. It only matters what's important for Aurora. And I pledge I will work with you, Joe, if I have the opportunity to do so. I do not regret this. And of course, it's not a big deal anyway. But thank you, Joe, for your service. I really do appreciate it.
On that level, Richard, thank you for your service. If the veterans in the room could stand up and take a clap, because it's very important in our country. If you're a veteran, if you could please stand up. Very, very important. Thank you. This question's probably not really fair, since I'm the chairwoman of Veterans Affairs in the House of Representatives and Energy. In the last 14 years, whether it's the Lotto scratch-off ticket, which was one of my bills, or the post-traumatic stress hotline, 24/7 hotline that we have in the state, or being recognized as a beacon for veteran services from Washington, my third year in office, it's humbling. And veterans issues are not political issues. I will never ask veteran organizations, especially locally, to do anything when it has to come to political issues, because that's something I hold very dear to my heart. So this is an area that I'm very familiar with, that I've worked at federal and state levels, that I've actually produced legislation, passed it through their House, and execution of it now happening through the state that I've been honored to do. I was an E1 before I was ever an officer, so I know the working people run the Army, and I have the greatest respect for veterans. Thank you.
I do support the veterans organizations. My family has a military history. My father served during World War II, and my brother served 13 months in Vietnam. So I know a little bit, based on their experiences and the stories that they shared, what military service is all about for our country. I had an occasion just late last year to give a grant out of my award fund to a veterans organization to assist with their schooling, a scholarship fund. So firsthand, I was able to help them. I have the organization in my ward on Lake Street, Hope for Tomorrow. I've been able to assist them from time to time when they requested it. So it's something that's really important because the time they spend serving our country, we should spend the same amount of time helping them when they're in trouble. Ultimately, I think the federal government should step up as well and do more for our veterans. There's a reason why they're having issues with regard to their service during times of war. The state government has been cutting services for social service agencies. They need to do more as well. I will, as mayor, do what I can when asked. I do support the veterans organizations, and we need to do more. I'll do that as mayor, too.
Caterpillar headquarters has announced that it is leaving Peoria and headed for the Chicago area. Naperville has made a play for it. Will you attempt to attract Caterpillar to settle in Aurora?
No, I'm just kidding. Of course. And what we will do, and of course, Mayor O'Connor did have a meeting recently with the folks at Caterpillar about some of the other issues there in Montgomery, unincorporated Montgomery, I should say. But we absolutely will make a play for Caterpillar to move their headquarters to Aurora. The discussions have started, and what we'll do is we'll tell the story of Aurora. Over the last 20 years, Aurora has moved from being highlighted in national television as having a homicide rate on the highest of the nation. We had a homicide rate that was 4 times the national average 20 years ago. If you look at the average of the last several years, we're now significantly lower than the national average in terms of homicides. We were recently recognized as out of the 150 largest cities, the 3rd lowest property crime was in Aurora, Illinois. And so we've gone through a tremendous transformation. We have all of the things that some of us have talked about, a beautiful river that runs downtown, historic architecture, a strong and growing workforce. One of the things, if you compare Aurora to many other places, we have a higher, better, healthier birth rate to replace our retiring workforce. 10,000 baby boomers retiring every single day. And what Aurora can offer is things that no amount of money alone can buy. That replacement workforce, historic architecture, the river, the culture and the arts, the diversity, all of those things will be part of the pitch to get Caterpillar to put their corporate headquarters in Aurora, Illinois.
Yes, of course. About 2.5 months ago, I spoke with the lobbyists for Caterpillar, so we kind of knew things were coming down the pike, and with my Peoria colleagues, which their main headquarters is there. What's happening, though, is Caterpillar supplies the supply and demand has gone down drastically. So there's not as much mining that's going on across the country, so they really need, or across the nation, they really need to start to retool and make sure they're heavy in IT. But the problem is that they're going away. It was something like 500 jobs were going to Arkansas, and 150 were going to East Moline, or God, I can't remember the city, but we were talking about it and how we would attract them here. But once again, that's going to take taxpayers' dollars. That's going to take tips. It's going to ideas and what have you. It'd be great to get them here, but we also need to be realistic about the times and how they change. But the biggest part is making sure that we have somebody that's already communicating at that level and with DECIO to see what other kinds of programs we can bring here to Aurora to attract other businesses, new and cutting-edge businesses.
Yes, of course, I would attempt to meet with Caterpillar and help convince them to stay. As Rick Guzman said, the Mayor O'Connor has already met with them to see what their needs might be. I would do the same thing. As Linda said, there are different development tools that we could use, TIF tools, TIF districts, tax rebate, those types of things. I'm hoping that the decision has not already been made, that they're out the door. I'm fearful that that might be the case, but I wouldn't close anything, of course, and negotiate with them and see what their needs are to see how we can best meet them.
Of course, I would make a play for Caterpillar. As a matter of fact, as my role as Alderman at large, I've already spoken with representatives in Caterpillar about their move. And not only that, took it another step. I was with a local developer and riding around through Aurora and we identified many acres, where Caterpillar could actually set up shop. So not only would, in attracting them, would we say, please come to Aurora, we'll say, this is where we put you. These are the acres that we mark out for you, and then we sell our city. We sell the fact that we have a river running through our city, the fact that we have a transportation hub that will take people in and out of our city, that stops and starts right in Aurora, all the way from Chicago to the city. We sell that we have an educated and prepared workforce. And again, that starts with working with the schools and getting apprenticeship programs and co-op programs in our schools, so we can get our kids prepared to take these 21st century jobs, these Caterpillar and factory jobs that come. They won't all be machine jobs. Some of them will be executive jobs. We have to prepare our young people to have these jobs. But in attracting Caterpillar, we have to show them something. We have to prepare a plan, not just have a relationship, but create a plan. And that's what I've started doing right now, creating a plan, whether it be Caterpillar or any other company. We have lots and plots where they can set up shop, where we can prepare for our workforce in the future, and we can sell the rest of our city, our river, our downtown, and make Aurora a desirable place for any business to come.
Starting with Ms. Chappell-Lavia, two-part question. Do you support Planned Parenthood in Aurora? And what steps would you take to ensure that the police department would detain protesters who violate the trespassing law?
Yes, I do. And that's a federal issue, and they're here, and the majority of Planned Parenthood is planning families. And for women who can't afford the health care, and men, they do STDs, they do check for HIV, so they have a lot of services there that are very important and vital to a community like ours. Also, the property that's adjacent to it, I think it's under contract. So once that happens, then there's an issue with protesters being on private property. But right now, you know, everybody has an opportunity for the freedom of speech, okay? And that's what makes our country so great. I want to go back to what Mr. Richard Irving was talking about talking to businesses, private businesses right now, okay? He's implied this more than once, that he's talking to developers right now. And that's comes really close to material communication. Because if these companies are going to be vendors of ours, and one of your aldermen is already talking about how they get the jobs, or how do we bring them here, it borderlines on things. And that's why my campaign is so thick on transparency, ethics, and accountability. We have to know what's going on. And a lot of the issues that have to do with business to be at the table, not just aldermen, not just mayors. We need to make sure that businesses are there directing what's going on, because they don't feel part of the process. And that's one of the biggest issues: accountability, transparency, and ethics.
Ultimately, this is a federal issue. Neither the states, the municipalities, or the counties have a real say in this. What we did do as a city was made sure that people have the right to demonstrate here and follow the rules, so they don't interfere with other people's freedom and other people coming and going in the area as well. So I would make sure that if there is a problem, that we would enforce that agreement between the parties, and making sure that all laws are obeyed.
I think the issue with Planned Parenthood is how they came into the city. And when they came into the city, they used deception. And they set up shop, and the next day Planned Parenthood is just in play, without giving our citizens in Aurora an opportunity to speak their voice. And I know our citizens wanted to have a voice, because the very next city council meeting You know, people signed up by the hundreds to have their 3 minutes to speak, and we were there till 1:30 in the morning. This lets me know that people wanted to have a voice, and what Planned Parenthood did was took that voice away. Whether you're pro-life or pro-choice, the issue is how they surreptitiously came into the city of Aurora without giving our citizens a voice. They took that voice away. In the very next city council meeting, we were there till 10:30, with people still talking and wanting to voice their opinion, and we eventually just had to cut it off and say, you know, everybody's had an opportunity to speak. Now, that's in litigation right now. Now, I got 35 seconds left. I've got to respond to that whole bordering on the edge of, I don't think you can say something illegal. Well, that's exactly what the aldermen are supposed to be doing, working to build our city. If you're not willing to communicate with developers that are working in our city to grow our city, to talk about the potential of business on one side of town, the potential of housing on the other side of town, then why are we here? What are we doing? That's exactly the job of the alderman at large, of all our aldermen, to grow our city economic development. When you're mayor, you're not working this and doing this by yourself. You're creating an organization, a group of people that will buy into the city. We're creating individuals that will say, I want to be a part of Aurora, and that only happens by communication.
Well, the question about support, whether or not we support Planned Parenthood being in Aurora, I think it seems to me to be kind of a little bit of a moot issue. Whether or not they came or not, there certainly are some things that we could try to do, but it would, if people wanted to, and then people came and said, you know, we need, if City Council wanted to vote to kind of take some sort of action, I just don't, it would not be my policy to say we're going to spend our money and subject ourselves to a lawsuit over federal issues. So, you know, this is a federal issue, and I think that it's important to realize that that the job of a mayor is about trying to find common ground. And so I think there is some common ground to be found here, and that's what I've tried to focus my attention on over the years. I've been on the board of the advisory board of Family Focus for over 10 years, about 10 years. And one of the programs that they have is a program that works within the high schools to identify teenage moms and to go and come alongside them and to provide supports to them. It's part of an early childhood program that the city has actually helped to fund, so that those kids, if the parents choose to continue, will have supports. That the parents will have the option and will know that if they do choose to keep their children, that they will have a caring community and a support system around them to be able to make that decision, hopefully to keep their child, so that we see fewer abortions. So I think that is the type of common ground that we can find, and that's what I would continue to do as mayor.
When visitors enter the city, especially on the west side, they see landscaping that has not been maintained well and possibly led to some businesses leaving the west side. What would you do to change that?
Well, the first question I would ask is where on the west side, so I can deal with it. I represent the near west side of town, the 6th Ward, so my boundaries go from Randall Road to the river, from North Aurora to the downtown.
The question specified Orchard and Galena.
Okay. Good. Well, that is in the 5th Ward, so we would make sure that if landscaping has died, that needs to be replaced, we would make sure that it is replaced. And make sure that they adhere to the agreements that were signed and passed by City Council. As I mentioned earlier, I've been a green-friendly elected official since day one, and I think landscaping and the like is important. And it is important, I think, to have a good face when you own and operate a business. And I think that ultimately buying and shopping is an emotional experience, and you want the community looking good. And that's the reason why that I first proposed the Riverwalk Commission, because we need to have the downtown looking good again. And that's including making it more green, benefiting from the beautiful Fox River, and having standards like we've been able to put in place. So I know how important it is, because we can see the physical look of the downtown, and more businesses are coming downtown every day, but we need to do more. So I think it's important to make sure that we work together to make sure that occurs.
Well, I'm not willing to throw the 5th Ward Alderman Carl Franklin under the bus. I like Carl Franklin. Well, yeah, it's all about our inspections department. You know, the reason many things exist in the city, whether it be overcrowding, whether it be overparking, whether it be, you know, tall grass, is because we allow it. You know, and we allow it because, you know, we don't focus on what we need to do to keep our city beautiful, to beautify our city. And that takes an inspection department, a full inspection department. Our inspection department right now is down in numbers. I think we're probably short about 5 or 6 inspectors that would normally be out inspecting properties, making sure that Aurora stays the beautiful city that we all want it to be. So we've got to prioritize, you know, and again, we've got to prioritize with our police department, make sure we have a full complement of police officers, prioritize with our 911 operators and make sure we have a full complement, and prioritize with our inspections department to make sure that, you know, all these folks are working together to do what we need to do to keep Aurora clean and beautiful. We say we want to attract new business to the city of Aurora. We're not going to be able to do that unless we keep Aurora pristine. We say we want to attract, you know, more rooftops, more people to the city of Aurora. We're not going to be able to do that unless we keep Aurora beautiful. And that comes through the service that our employees give. You know, the service that our city employees give. They ride around our streets and make sure that our city looks nice. We need more of them. We need to give them the help. We need to prioritize our budget to make sure that, you know, we get the employees necessary to do the job.
Well, I'll see your not willingness to throw Carl under the bus, and I'll raise you one and pay Carl a compliment. I think Alderman Franco has been an extraordinarily active, an extraordinarily concerned alderman, and this West Galena corridor in particular has been top of mind for him ever since he's been there. And I will say that I don't know the specific issue that's going on there, but I will say that Alderman Franco and the previous 5th Ward Alderman have taken and gone out of their ways to make sure that this area, in particular Orchard and Galena, stays beautiful. I think ward funds have gone into this, our engineering department came around, and you know, the retention sort of pond lake that's there, that a couple of years ago that dried up completely. And there was no water there, and it didn't look so good. And so we actually worked together with the aldermen to put in a liner there to make sure that it never completely dried up all the way, and that it reflected the beauty and the attractiveness that it should. But I think the underlying question really is about, you know, businesses in that area. And one of the things that I have proposed is saying that West Galena corridor in particular, things have changed. You know, we've got huge traffic counts on Orchard Road, but not as much just on Galena. And the future of West Galena may not be big box retail. So I proposed a new master plan using regional experts, planning experts, residents and business owners, all to be part of a solution to be able to come up with how do we redefine, reimagine what West Galena Boulevard can look like.
Well, there's been so much focus on the downtown that it seems like the areas in the far east, far west, and south seem disconnected when I've spoken to residents in all those areas. So I think it's extremely important that when we come up with an economic development plan and a jobs plan, it's for the whole entire city. It's not just one area. And Orchard Road, Farnsworth, Eola, and then Alderman Bugg's area, I think they need more attention than they've been given in the past. We need to market the city like we've never done before. We need to get out of the city boundary, go out and get people and bring them here as opposed to waiting for them to come see us. The Invest in Aurora, they've done a good job. We can do a lot better with the connections from outside the city. We can cater to or find willing businesses that would like to move here and make sure that we, Orchard Road should be full of businesses right now, and it's not. It's just been stifled. So I have a plan that we'll be doing a convention center, a sportsplex, hotels, and dining areas with a lot of the help of the business group that I've been working with to put together a master plan and CMAP, and quite a few other areas in the state that have worked on things. But right now, what we only have is a master plan for downtown. So we're going to be working hard on that so we can make sure that all those corridors in and out, past Farnsworth on New York Street, that's inviting, that it looks like we have money, because we want people to come here and spend their money.
Okay, starting with Mr. Urban. Question from the audience. Would you intend for Aurora to become a sanctuary city for refugees from other countries?
All right. So the question is really about jurisdiction. The City of Aurora or the state of Illinois has absolutely no jurisdiction over ICE, Immigration Customs Enforcement. We have no jurisdiction at all. So to attempt to legislate their jurisdiction would be improper and a waste of our resources. Now, every person that lives inside of the City of Aurora is considered a resident of the City of Aurora, regardless of their status, documented or undocumented. We, as the Mayor of Aurora, would treat them as a resident of Aurora. Now, if ICE determined that they wanted to impose their jurisdiction, then that would be ICE's jurisdiction and federal government jurisdiction. However, we in the City of Aurora have no jurisdiction over that. And again, to attempt to legislate that, I think would be improper.
Well, I think Alderman Irvin is right to point out that this is a jurisdictional issue. This is immigration enforcement is not the area for local government. It is the area for the federal government. And I've said a couple of times that there are two important things that the City of Aurora does need to do with regard to immigration. And the first thing is that we need to be enforcing our own laws. And when we find people who are breaking our own laws, and we're bringing them into custody, if they are being charged with a serious offense, then I do believe we've been asked, and we should take advantage of tools that we have to be able to not have those people continue to be threats. And one of the tools that we have is to be able to coordinate, collaborate with Immigration Customs Enforcement. The other thing, and just as importantly, that we need to do is we need to continue our efforts that Chief Zeman has started really, really well. She's gone to church services. She did Palm Sunday last year, all 4 services at Sacred Heart. She's gone to a number of other churches and said, listen, when we pull you over for a traffic stop, if you are a victim of a crime, if you have witnessed a crime, we don't care about your immigration status because it's more important that you be able to tell us what happened. You be able to be a partner with us in solving crime. This is a public safety issue for everybody. Everybody needs to be able to feel safe to report if they've been a victim of crime or if they have witnessed a crime, because all of us are at risk when people don't feel safe to come to the police.
And I'd like to echo those things too, because right now, especially in Springfield, we had a long discussion yesterday that Leader Lou Lang started about the executive order that the president put in place. All well-meaning, but even Americans are stuck outside of the country that are slowly coming back in. So we have to be very careful. Children are having post-traumatic stress. I was with the Girl Scouts over at Islamic Center in Naperville. They were terrified. These little Girl Scouts, there were about 85 of them, about 27 mothers. Some kids didn't show up. The police were there to protect them. So we have to be really, really careful and make sure people feel safe. They feel safe. I think Mayor O'Connor did a really good job explaining how we need to take care of our people, make sure they feel safe, they can report crimes, but also Chief Zeman as well. But the sanctuary city label is symbolic because we would be fighting with federal government on what their job is and what our job is as not only residents but the mayor of the city. I would really work extremely hard with other mayors throughout this country, our Congress people, and other elected officials, so we can force the hand of immigration reform that's logical, sensible, and sensitive to everyone's needs. There are mixed status families throughout this country and throughout Illinois, and we don't want to rip families apart, but we want to be logical and safe. Because Americans, you're the #1 top priority, but we also need to make sure that we are sensitive and empathetic towards other people's needs too that are here in this country.
First off, let me say that my comment earlier was just stating a fact. I wasn't throwing anybody under the bus, so no cheap shots, guys. Alderman Franklin was doing an impeccable job out there, and I support his efforts. But yes, I would agree with the 3 candidates as well. The sanctuary city idea is really symbolic. Doesn't really have any authority whatsoever. And just to echo what was said, it is the issue under not only the chief executive, but the courts. And we all know what recently happened with overturning of that recent executive session. There is due process in this country, we know that. We've seen that in the last couple of weeks. And ultimately, the courts will decide, and neither the state nor the counties or the municipalities will have a say in it. It will be by due process within the laws, case law, constitutional law, and the federal government.
Thank you. We have many more good questions, many more questions. The clock on the wall tells us that it's time for the final comments, 2 minutes for each one. We drew by lottery, so the order will be first Linda Chapelivia.
I'm number one. I want to thank everybody coming out. First of all, out of your busy day, I know that we all have amazing busy lives, but this is very important. I want you to understand that I'm going to have a rock-solid commitment to transparency, accountability, and ethics in the city. It's very, very important and very paramount. An economic development and a jobs plan for the whole entire city, not just downtown. And I want to make sure that our budget is sustainable. And the results of that is we're going to fight gangs and crimes. We're going to be able to get more money and resources to the schools. We're going to have more jobs and be able to bring new business here. It's time to take Aurora to the next level, not look back but go forward, which is very important. My opponents here today, that they don't have such a bold vision. What they want to do is rest on what they have done to this point, which we need to take it forward. And I have laid out that. Also, you would think that my opponents would say that myself and Springfield, we're at the root of every problem the city has, while other cities around us are prospering. And when I have been in Springfield 14 years now, 15 years, and I've been reelected. So I think that means I've done a good job, okay? I have brought back money for the River's Edge. I created the legislation, brought the money back. The STEM school at AU, my legislation, it's there. The library brought back money. St. Charles Hospital, in the 11th hour, we were able to get through the legislature, the Republican and Democratic legislature, to make sure that was complete. And you've done a good job, Rick. That was a very good job with that. But when we look at it, even in Springfield, I've been a candidate that has passed income tax relief, property tax relief, pension reform, limits on term limits on executives, funding for veterans, so many areas that I have been looked at through a bunch of organizations, but that have endorsed me: the police, the teachers, the firemen, city workers. So it's important that you see that I am the candidate to take us forward, not backwards. And I appreciate your support. I will work hard every day to make sure you know I've earned it. Thank you.
Richard?
10 steps forward, not 10 steps back. That's what we need to take. And we're only going to take that by having strong leadership. Now I respect everyone that's on the stage, and I have no ill will, and everybody's like me. We've had relationships over the years, but you're not a leader because you have connections. That doesn't make you a leader. It makes you friendly, but it doesn't make you a leader. You're not a leader because you've been an employee of 2 governors and a mayor. That makes you, a good staffer. That doesn't make you a leader. You're not a leader because you've had 32 years in the city council. It makes you committed to the city of Aurora, but it doesn't make you a leader. The things that make you a leader are the things that I have to offer to this city. I was a leader in combat during the Gulf War. There myself, boots on the ground. I was a leader as a community-based prosecutor working with the police in our city to stop crime. I'm not talking about what I'm going to do. I'm talking about what I've done and how I'll use what I've done into the future. This isn't speculation for me. This is stuff that I've actually done. Economic development. I actually have a business that I've sustained 14 years downtown Aurora. Now, we're going to lead a leader in the city that's able to sustain this city and take us forward. Not just sustain what we've got and build on the foundation, but take us to the future. That person is me. We're going to need someone that actually has focused and worked in education. I've been a substitute teacher on the east side, District 131, working with young kids. I've been a mentor of young kids. I've been a professor at college, at Robert Morris College, over on the far east side. I've been about education my whole life. I recognize that education is key. I grew up in low-income housing. If you think it took a lot to get from where I grew up in low-income housing to being a lawyer and sitting on the stage asking to be the next mayor of Aurora, think about what I could do if we work together with me as the next leader of this city. I want to lead this city in the future, build economic development, education, and keep our crime low so we can bring jobs and prosperity to the city. I'd like to be the next mayor of Aurora. Thank you very much.
Rick Kuzma.
Well, I talked about the things that I've led on in the beginning, and so I want to actually start by thanking Linda Chapalavia for the compliment and thanking you for your support for the River Edge legislation. I will say that we need your support more because the one-year extension is not enough to get done the bigger things. So we need to work for that 5-year extension that the City Council asked for. And I will say, too, that I think some of the comments about why are all the other cities around us thriving and how Aurora has a negative for every positive to set us up, I bristle at that. I believe Aurora has been transforming and has been telling a great story. I think that Aurora is a city that's on the move and has overcome so much more than any of our surrounding communities. And so I believe that we do have an opportunity. There's more work to be done. Of course there is. There's a lot more work that needs to be done. But we have such a great foundation to start on. And I believe that the next mayor has to be prepared to bring 3 things. I think they need to bring experience. And I've been in the mayor's office helping to run the city for over 5 years. 2,000 days about learning, preparing, and gaining the kind of experience in how our city operates that only I can bring to that office. I think a mayor needs to bring a knack for innovation, being able to take new approaches to old problems, particularly in a time of reduced resources and added strains on our budget, many of them coming from Springfield. I think that the next mayor needs to be able to show that they have a proven ability to bring people together and deliver results. Because results matter. The records matter. The projects you put together matter. And my commitment to you is that my administration will be defined by the type of collaboration that has made these projects work, the type of inclusivity that I've sought to have in everything that I've done, because I'm not going to change Aurora. None of us individually will, but collectively, we can bring Aurora to that next great level.
Michael Sulu.
I've been able to present tonight a little bit about myself and tell you how I'm able to work with people, how I'm a good listener, how I have the experience, leadership, ideas, and vision, how I can think outside the box, how I don't look for band-aids, but I look for long-term solutions. And I'm giving you a couple examples this evening. So again, go to that catchy name, MikeSegalForMayor.com. Look at what I've done. Past is prologue for all of us. Look at our past. Look at the policy that we've been able to implement and how I've been able to, especially me, how I've been able to change people's lives. That's what I bring to the table. I'm in favor of immediate property tax relief by convincing the state of Illinois to change the school funding formula. Up to 60% of your tax bill goes to school funding. Other states have done that. We're 47 out of 50 state. If I have to call every mayor in the state of Illinois, if I have to call every school superintendent in the state of Illinois, if I have to call every school board president in the state of Illinois to form a coalition to get Springfield to change their ways, that's what I will do as your mayor. You've also seen me, in terms of presenting tonight, the Riverwalk Commission. The downtown looks the best today than it has since probably the Foxway Mall opened. We did that in the Riverwalk Commission. That's how I can think outside the box. I can see a problem and develop policy and being able to implement it over the long term. I don't give up. I stick to it. I have the vision. In terms of the older neighborhoods, I've been able to create 6 new parks in less than 5 years in the older neighborhoods of my ward. We need to do that across the city. I'm in favor of demolishing Copley and getting a new park there. Older neighborhoods need quality of life. They need open space. They need parks because it attracts families. And families will go to the school system and be involved in the community. We need to do more of that. I will promote that as well. So I have a lot of ideas. Again, go to my website, consider voting for me. I appreciate the time, and thank you for having the forum tonight.
There will be 3 more forums that I know of, one on Saturday, one on Sunday, and one on Wednesday. And videos will be available at Aurora Community Television and the Voice Facebook page. If you go to facebook.com/thevoice.us, And thank you to the candidates, and thank you for your great audience. We look forward to more debate on this.